Captain Veltar watched his ship die around him. The lights flickered on and off. Sparks flew from broken panels. His crew ran back and forth, trying to fix things that could not be fixed. The research ship Harmony's Edge was never meant for fighting. It was built for exploring space and studying stars. The Kalathi people were peaceful. They had no weapons that could hurt anyone. Their ships were made for science, not war, but the monsters had found them anyway. Through the main window, Veltar could see 7 huge ships moving closer. They were dark and ugly, like giant insects made of metal and flesh. These were Nexari ships. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Nexari. They were raiders who destroyed planets and made slaves of anyone they caught. "Captain," said his communications officer, a young Kalathi named Nithra. Her forearms shook as she worked at her station. "Our shields are at 15%. The engines are not working. We cannot run away." Veltar's crystalline skin turned a pale blue color. This was how his people looked when they were very afraid. His ship had 30 crew members. All of them were scientists and explorers. None of them knew how to fight. "Sir," another crew member called out. "The Nexari are sending a message." "Put it on the speakers," Veltar said. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. The Nexari spoke in their own language, but the ship's computer translated the words. "Kalathi vessel, you will surrender now. Your ship and crew belong to the Horde. Do not resist and your death will be quick." The crew looked at their captain. Some of them were crying. Others just stared in shock. They all knew what happened to people the Nexari captured. The lucky ones died fast. The others became slaves or worse. "How long until they reach us?" Veltar asked. 20 minutes, maybe less," answered his engineer. Veltar thought hard. His people had no weapons. They had no way to fight. But maybe someone else could help them. The galaxy was big. There had to be someone out there who could fight the Nexari. "Nithra," he said, "send a distress call. Use all frequencies. Send it as far as you can." "Yes, Captain, what should I say?" Veltar closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his voice was calm and clear. "This is Captain Veltar of the Kalathi research vessel Harmony's Edge. We are under attack by Nexari raiders. Our weapons are not strong enough. Anyone who gets this message, please help us. We need help right now." Nithra's fingers moved over her controls. The message went out into space, traveling faster than light. It reached nearby star systems in seconds. It would reach distant ones in minutes. "Message sent, Captain," she said. "Good. Now we wait." But Veltar did not think anyone would come. The Nexari had been attacking ships for many years. They had destroyed whole planets. Other species were too afraid to fight them. The galaxy had learned to hide when the Nexari came hunting. Outside, the enemy ships moved closer. Veltar could see smaller ships coming out of the big ones. These were boarding craft. The Nexari would be here soon. Far away, on a small blue planet, someone heard the call. Hyun sat at his desk in the Seoul Deep Space Monitoring Station. He drank coffee and watched the screens that showed signals from space. Most days, nothing interesting happened. Today was different. The alien message came in clear and strong. Hyun had learned many alien languages in his job. He understood what the Kalathi captain was saying. Someone was in trouble. Someone needed help. Hyun picked up his phone and called his boss. "Admiral Taehyun, we have a situation. I'm sending you a recording now." 10 minutes later, Admiral Taehyun was in the monitoring station. He listened to the message 3 times. His face was serious. "How far away are they?" he asked. "About 6 hours at top speed, sir," Hyun answered. The Admiral picked up another phone. "Get me Fleet Commander Minho now." He waited a moment. "Minho, we have first contact. Real first contact, and it's not going well." Across the planet, alarms started going off. The United Earth Naval Command had been waiting for this day for months. They had known about the aliens in space. They had been listening to their radio signals and learning their languages. But they had never talked to any of them. Now aliens were asking for help, and humans had to decide what to do. Captain Jiwan was eating lunch when her phone rang. "Captain, report to the Iron Will immediately. We're going to war." She did not ask questions. She grabbed her jacket and ran. The Iron Will was humanity's newest warship. It was 2 kilometers long and covered in weapons. Unlike the pretty ships that aliens built, human ships were made for one thing: fighting. When Jiwan reached the bridge, her crew was already there. Commander Soyeon stood at the weapons station. Chief Engineer Donghyun was checking the engines. Dr. Seo-hyun was getting the medical bay ready. "What's the situation?" Jiwan asked. Soyeon handed her a data pad. "Aliens. Under attack. 7 enemy ships. The good guys have no weapons." Jiwan read the report quickly. The Nexari horde. She had heard about them from the alien radio signals her people had been listening to. They were bad news. Very bad news. "How long to get there?" she asked Donghyun. 6 hours if we push the engines hard," he said. "Do it. And call the other ships. Tell them we might need help." As the Iron Will prepared to leave Earth, Jiwan thought about what they were doing. Humans had never fought aliens before. They did not know how strong alien weapons were. They did not know if human weapons would work against alien ships. But they knew one thing. Someone had asked for help, and humans did not ignore calls for help, especially when the call came from people who could not fight back. The Iron Will left Earth's orbit and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Behind it, 3 more human ships followed. They were going to save people they had never met from enemies they had never fought. It was humanity's first day in galactic politics, and they were starting with a war. 6 hours later, they would learn if human weapons could hurt alien ships. The Nexari were about to learn what happened when they picked on someone who had friends with very big guns. Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Iron Will and watched space bend around them. The ship was moving faster than light, racing toward aliens who needed help. She had never seen real aliens before. None of the humans had, but they were about to. "Captain," said Commander Soyeon from her station, "all weapons are ready. Railguns loaded. Plasma torpedoes armed. The new antimatter charges are ready too." "Good. How are the other ships?" "The Yamato's Thunder, Constitution, and Iron Cross are all keeping up with us. Total of 4 ships all ready for battle." Jiwan nodded. 4 human ships against 7 alien ones. The numbers were not good, but humans had won fights with worse odds before. Chief Engineer Donghyun called from the engine room. "Captain, we'll reach the target area in 1 hour. Engines are running perfectly." "Thank you, Donghyun. Keep them ready for combat speed." Dr. Yoonji, the ship's alien expert, walked onto the bridge. She carried a data pad with everything humans knew about the 2 alien species they were about to meet. "Captain, I need to brief you on what we're facing," Yoonji said. "Go ahead." "The Kalathi are peaceful. They evolved on a world with no big predators and no wars. Their technology is very advanced, but they have no weapons. They build their ships for beauty and science, not fighting." Jiwan frowned. "And the Nexari?" "Raiders. They evolved on a harsh world, but not as harsh as Earth. They're strong and mean, but they've never fought anyone who could fight back. Most alien species are like the Kalathi, peaceful and weak." "Weak?" asked Soyeon. Unji nodded. "Most aliens evolved on what we would call paradise worlds. Nice weather, plenty of food, no natural disasters. They never learned to fight because they never had to." "And us?" Jiwan asked, though she already knew the answer. "We evolved on a death world, Captain. Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, diseases, predators. We survived by becoming the best killers on our planet." The bridge was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew it was true. Humans had spent their whole history fighting. Fighting nature, fighting animals, fighting each other. They had gotten very good at it. "The Nexari have conquered 47 star systems," Yoonji continued, "but they did it by attacking peaceful species who had never seen war. They use fear and overwhelming numbers." "What about their technology?" asked Donghyun over the ship's radio. "Advanced, but they focus on terror weapons and boarding actions. They like to capture ships and make slaves. They're not used to enemies who shoot back." Jiwan smiled, but it was not a nice smile. They're about to learn something new then. 1 hour later, the iron will dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The stars stopped moving and became steady points of light again. And there, in front of them, was humanity's first alien battle. "My God," whispered Soyon. 7 huge ships surrounded one smaller one. The big ships were ugly and dark, like they were made from bugs and metal mixed together. The small ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and bright colors, but it was clearly damaged. Pieces of it were floating in space. "That's them," said Yunji. "The big ones are Nexari. The pretty one is Kalathi." "How big are the Nexari ships?" Jiwan asked. "About 2 kilometers long each, heavily armed. But Captain, look at their weapons." Jiwan looked at the tactical display. The Nexari ships had energy weapons that glowed with strange colors. They had armor made from living metal. They looked very scary. "Are you worried, Commander?" Jiwan asked Soyon. Soyon grinned. "No, Captain. I'm excited." Jiwan understood. Human ships were different from alien ships. Where alien ships were pretty or scary, human ships were practical. Every piece of the iron will was designed to kill things efficiently. "What's our weapons advantage?" Jiwan asked. "Railguns hit harder than anything they have," Soyon reported. "Our plasma torpedoes are hotter than their energy weapons. And Captain, they've never seen antimatter charges before." "Range? We can hit them from here. They haven't seen us yet." Jiwan thought about it. The smart thing would be to study the enemy first. Watch how they fought, learn their weaknesses, but people were dying right now. "All ships, this is Captain Jiwan. We're going in. Target their engines first. We want some of them alive to question." "Captain," said Lieutenant Hana from the communications station, "should we talk to them first, maybe warn them?" Jiwan shook her head. "They're torturing innocent people. Talking time is over." The 4 human ships moved forward. They were much smaller than the Nexari vessels, but they moved faster and smoother. Human engines were built for quick changes in direction. Human computers could calculate firing solutions in microseconds. The Nexari were about to learn the difference between raiding peaceful scientists and fighting a species that had been at war with something every day for millions of years. "Target the lead ship's engines," Jiwan ordered. "Fire when ready." The Iron Will's main railgun fired. A piece of metal the size of a car shot through space at a significant fraction of light speed. It hit the Nexari ship's engine section and went completely through it. The alien ship's engines exploded in a ball of blue fire. "Direct hit," reported Soyon. "Their engines are gone." The other human ships fired at the same time. Railgun slugs and plasma torpedoes reached out across space. In 10 seconds, 3 Nexari ships had lost their engines. They could still fight, but they could not run away. "Captain," said Hana, "we're getting a message from the Kalathi ship." "Put it through." A voice came over the speakers. It sounded scared but hopeful. "Unknown ships, this is Captain Veltar of the Harmony's Edge. Who are you?" Jiwan keyed her microphone. "Captain Veltar, this is Captain G1 of the Earthship Iron Will. We received your distress call. Stay where you are while we handle your problem." There was silence from the Kalathi ship. Then Veltar's voice came back, full of wonder. "Earth? We have never heard of Earth." "You have now," Jiwan said. "And so have they." The Nexari ships were finally reacting. They turned toward the human fleet and began firing. Energy beams lashed out across space. Some of them hit the human ships. "Damage report," Jiwan called out. "Shields at 80%, Donghyun reported. Their weapons are strong, but not as strong as ours." "Good. Return fire. Show them what human weapons can do." What happened next was not really a battle. It was a lesson. The Nexari had spent decades fighting enemies who were weak and scared. They were used to winning through fear and numbers. They had never fought anyone who shot back with real weapons. Human weapons were built by a species that had been trying to kill each other efficiently for thousands of years. Every human weapon was designed to break things as thoroughly as possible. Railguns punched through Nexari armor like paper. Plasma torpedoes burned holes in their ships. And when one Nexari ship tried to ram the human formation, the humans showed them something new. Antimatter charges. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, there was nothing left of the Nexari ship but glowing gas. 20 minutes after the battle started, 4 Nexari ships were crippled, 2 had run away, and 1 was completely gone. The humans had not lost a single ship. "Captain," said Veltar's voice over the radio. "What are you?" Jiwan looked out at the wreckage floating in space. "We're from Earth, Captain Veltar, and we don't like bullies." Captain Veltar had never been on a warship before. The human ship Iron Will was nothing like his beautiful research vessel. Everything here was built for fighting. The walls were thick metal. The corridors were wide enough for soldiers to run through quickly. Even the lights seemed brighter and harsher, but the humans themselves were not what he expected. Dr. Seo-hyun was gentle as she treated his wounded crew members. Her hands were steady and sure as she used strange human medical devices to heal injuries that Kalathi doctors could not fix. "Your medicine is very advanced," Veltar told her as she worked. "We had to get good at fixing people," Seo-hyun said, without looking up. Humans hurt themselves a lot while they were learning to survive. Ji-hoon, the cultural officer, was trying to learn Kalathi language. He had a good ear for it and was already speaking simple sentences. "Your ship, very pretty," he said in broken Kalathi. "We like beauty, but we make for fighting." Veltar appreciated the effort. "Why do you make ships for fighting? Are there many wars on your world?" Ji-hoon thought about how to answer in simple words. "Earth, hard world, many dangers. We learn fight or we die." Through the window of the Mai human ship, Veltar could see the wreckage of the Nexari vessels floating in space. The battle had lasted only 20 minutes. In that time, the humans had destroyed or crippled 7 enemy ships with only 4 of their own. Captain Jiwan found him there, looking out at the debris. "I hope the sight does not upset you," she said. "We tried to disable them, not destroy them." "I am not upset," Veltar replied. "I am amazed. The Nexari have been raiding our space for years. Our people thought they could not be stopped." "Everything can be stopped if you hit it hard enough," Jiwan said. "The question is whether you're willing to hit it. And humans are willing." Jiwan looked out at the wreckage. "When innocent people are being hurt? Yes, we're very willing." While they talked, news of the battle was spreading across the galaxy. The Kalathi had sent reports to their government. The surviving Nexari ships had carried word back to their fleet commanders. And human communications officers were broadcasting on every frequency they could find. On the core worlds of the Galactic Alliance, Admiral Kethra watched the battle recordings for the 5th time. Her aide, a nervous young officer named Trilek, stood beside her. "Admiral," Trilek said, "how is this possible? The Nexari had 7 capital ships." "I know how many ships they had," Kethra replied. "What I want to know is how these humans destroyed them so easily. The recording showed things that seemed impossible. Human weapons that could punch through Nexari armor like it was not there. Human ships that moved faster and turned quicker than anything the Alliance had ever built. And at the end, some kind of weapon that completely destroyed a 2-kilometer warship in a single explosion. Have we ever seen weapons like this?" Kethra asked. "No, Admiral. Our scientists say the energy readings are extraordinary. Whatever that final weapon was, it released more power than our biggest planetary defense guns." Kethra nodded slowly. "And these humans used it on a single ship. How many more do they have?" "We don't know, Admiral. We don't know anything about them." "Then, we need to learn. Send a diplomatic ship to make contact. I want to know who these people are and what they want." Meanwhile on Earth, President Minseo was holding an emergency meeting with the United Earth Council. Defense Minister Chan Wu had just finished briefing them on the battle. "So we won," said the representative from Brazil. "We won this fight," Chan Wu corrected. "But we've just announced ourselves to an entire galaxy full of aliens. Some of them might not be happy about what we did." "The Nexari were raiders and slavers," said the representative from Nigeria. "We did the right thing. I agree, President Minseo said. But now we need to figure out what comes next. We can't pretend we don't exist anymore. The representative from India leaned forward. How many species are out there? Our listening posts have identified signals from over 300 different civilizations, reported Intelligence Chief Myong. Most seem to be peaceful traders and explorers. But there are others like the Nexari. How many others? At least 6 major aggressive species that we know of, maybe more. The room was quiet for a moment. Earth had just entered a galaxy full of aliens, and some of them were dangerous. What do our military advisors recommend? Asked President Minseo. Defense. Minister Chanwu stood up. We recommend that Earth take an active role in galactic affairs. We have advantages that other species don't have. We should use them to protect peaceful civilizations. You mean become galactic police? I mean become protectors. There's a difference. Back on the Iron Will, Captain Veltar was learning about that difference. Captain Jiwan had invited him to dinner in the ship's mess hall. The human food was strange but tasty, and the conversation was even more interesting than the food. Your species, Veltar said. You are all warriors? Not exactly, Jiwan replied. We have scientists and artists and teachers just like you do. But all of us learn to fight when we're young. Even the scientists? Especially the scientists. On Earth, knowledge is useless if you can't protect it. Veltar thought about this. Your world sounds very dangerous. It is. Storms that can destroy cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that bury whole countries in ash. Animals that hunt humans for food, diseases that kill millions, and worst of all, other humans. Other humans? Jiwan nodded. Humans fight each other more than anything else. We've been at war with ourselves for our entire history. We've gotten very good at it. But you fight to protect others now? We fight to protect people who can't protect themselves. It's what we do. That night, Captain Veltar lay in his guest quarters and thought about what he had learned. The humans came from a world that would kill most other species in days. They had spent millions of years learning to survive against impossible odds, and somehow, instead of becoming monsters like the Nexari, they had become protectors. But he also understood something else. The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could predict. The humans had weapons and ships that could destroy any enemy. They had military knowledge that other species could not match, and most importantly, they were willing to use both to defend strangers. The Nexari horde had ruled through fear for decades, but now there was something in the galaxy that the Nexari feared. The next morning, Captain Jiwan received a message from Earth. Captain, you are ordered to escort the Kalathi ship home safely. Then you will join the diplomatic mission to the Galactic Alliance capital. It's time for Earth to introduce itself properly. As the human ships prepared to leave, Veltar stood on the bridge of his repaired vessel. The humans had not only saved his crew, they had fixed his ship with technology he had never seen before. Captain Jiwan, he said over the radio, my people will never forget what you have done for us. Just pass the word, Captain Veltar. Tell everyone you meet that Earth stands with peaceful species, and tell them that bullies should look for easier targets. I will. But Captain, what if the Nexari come back with more ships? Jiwan's voice was calm and confident. Then we'll bring more ships too, and bigger guns. As the small fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading for Kalathi space, none of them knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to discover what happened when a species of warriors decided to become heroes, and the Nexari horde was about to learn that some prey bites back. 6 months had passed since the battle that saved the Harmony's Edge. The galaxy was no longer the same place. Admiral Kethra stood in the command center of the Galactic Alliance Defense Fleet, watching reports come in from across known space. Every screen showed the same thing: Nexari forces retreating, abandoned slave colonies being liberated, and trade routes that had been closed for years opening again. And in every report, the same name appeared: humans. Admiral, said her aide Trilak, we have another message from the Nexari High Command. They're demanding that the Alliance stop supporting human military actions. Kethra almost laughed. They're demanding? 6 months ago they were raiding Alliance space and we couldn't stop them. Now they're complaining that someone else is doing what we couldn't do. What should I tell them? Tell them to take their demands to the humans directly. See how that works out for them. The truth was that the Alliance had tried to contact Earth, officially, but the humans were too busy fighting to sit still for long diplomatic meetings. Instead, they had sent a simple message. We're here to help. Stay out of our way while we work. And work they had. Captain Veltar was now the official Kalathi representative to Earth. He spent his time on human ships, learning their ways and helping coordinate between human forces and alien governments. Today, he was on the bridge of the Yao, New Dawn, watching Captain Sunmi prepare for another mission. Where are we going this time? Veltar asked. The Korvac system, Captain Sunmi replied. The Nexari have 3 slave worlds there, about 50 million people in chains. And how many Nexari ships are defending it? 12 capital ships plus orbital defense platforms. Veltar felt his crystalline skin turn pale blue. That's a lot of firepower, Captain. Captain Sunmi smiled. Not really. We have 8 human ships and 6 allied vessels. Lieutenant Hana has worked out a battle plan that should have us in and out in 4 hours. Lieutenant Hana looked up from her tactical station. She was young for a human, but she had already become famous throughout the Allied fleet for her innovative strategies. The key is hitting their communication arrays first, she explained. If they can't coordinate, they can't use their numbers effectively. And the orbital platforms? Veltar asked. Railgun bombardment from maximum range. We'll take them out before they can return fire. Veltar had learned to trust human military planning, but the numbers still worried him. What if more Nexari ships arrive? Then we destroy them too, said Captain Sunmi simply. As the fleet prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Veltar thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, the Kalathi would never have dreamed of attacking Nexari strongholds. Now they were sending ships to fight alongside humans, learning human tactics and actually winning battles. The humans had shared more than just weapons technology. They had taught other species how to think about war differently. Instead of seeing battle as something to be avoided, allied species were learning to see it as a tool for protecting the innocent. But the biggest change was psychological. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had hope. On Earth, President Minseo was dealing with the political consequences of humanity's galactic debut. The United Earth Council chamber was full of representatives asking difficult questions. Madam President, said the representative from Australia, we've received formal diplomatic contact requests from 47 alien governments. How do we respond to all of them? We respond honestly, President Minseo replied. We tell them that Earth is committed to protecting peaceful species and fighting oppression wherever we find it. But that's a huge commitment, said the representative from Canada. Are we really prepared to police an entire galaxy? Defense? Minister Chanwu stood up. We're not policing anyone. We're providing military support to species that can't defend themselves. There's a difference. Is there? What happens when these alien governments start depending on us for everything? Then we teach them to defend themselves, said Foreign Minister June. The humans are already sharing military technology with allied species. Eventually, they won't need our protection. And what about species that don't want our help? Asked the representative from Russia. We leave them alone, President Minseo said firmly. Earth will never force our protection on anyone. But we won't abandon people who ask for help either. The debate continued, but the policy was clear. Earth would remain committed to its new role as galactic protector, whether the politicians liked it or not. Meanwhile, deep in Nexari space, Overlord Thekvar was learning what it felt like to be afraid. The massive Nexari commander stood in his war room, looking at reports that got worse every day. 15 slave worlds liberated, 23 raiding fleets destroyed, 6 major strongholds abandoned because they could not be defended. How many ships have we lost? He asked his aide. Over 200 capital vessels, Overlord. And the humans haven't lost a single one. Thekvar's insectoid features twisted in rage. How is that possible? They're just one species. They fight differently than anyone we've ever faced, Overlord. They use tactics we don't understand. Their weapons are more powerful than ours, and they seem to know exactly where to hit us to cause the most damage. What about their homeworld? Can we attack Earth directly? The aide's color changed to show fear. We tried, Overlord. The fleet we sent to Earth never returned. We don't even know what happened to them. Thekvar knew, though. The same thing that happened to every Nexari, force that faced humans, complete destruction. For 3 decades, the Nexari horde had been the terror of the galaxy. They had enslaved billions of beings across 47 star systems. No one had been able to stop them. Now, in 6 months, one species had reduced them to a shadow of their former power. And that species showed no signs of stopping. Overlord, said another aide, we're receiving surrender requests from 12 colony worlds. They want to join the Allied forces. Traitors, Thekvar growled. They're afraid, Overlord. The humans have promised freedom to any Nexari colony that surrenders peacefully. Many of our people believe them. And do they keep their promises? The aide's color showed uncertainty. Yes, Overlord. The humans seem to keep their word. Colonies that surrender are left alone. The humans only attack military targets. This was perhaps the most confusing thing about the humans. They were clearly the most powerful military force in the galaxy, but they didn't act like conquerors. They liberated worlds and then left, allowing local governments to rebuild themselves. It made no sense to the Nexari mind. Power was for taking, not giving away. Back on the New Dawn, the liberation of the Korvax system had gone exactly as Lieutenant Hanna had planned. The Nexari orbital defenses were destroyed in the first 10 minutes. The defending fleet was scattered within an hour. By the end of the day, 50 million slaves were free. Captain Veltar stood with Captain Sunmi on the bridge, watching the former slaves being evacuated to safety. Many of them were species he had never seen before, but they all had the same expression: wonder and disbelief that someone had actually come to save them. How do you decide which worlds to liberate first? Veltar asked. Simple, Captain Sunmi replied. We go wherever the need is greatest. The humans have a saying, nobody gets left behind. Even if it's dangerous? Especially if it's dangerous. The more dangerous a mission is, the more important it becomes to succeed. Veltar nodded. He was beginning to understand human thinking. They didn't avoid danger. They ran toward it. Not because they enjoyed fighting, but because they knew that someone had to stand between the innocent and those who would hurt them. As the fleet prepared to leave Korvac, heading for their next mission, Veltar received a message from his homeworld. The Kalathi government wanted him to return to make a full report on human capabilities and intentions. I think I know what they really want to ask, he told Captain Sunmi. What's that? They want to know if humans are going to replace the Nexari as the galaxy's dominant military power. And what will you tell them? Veltar thought about it for a moment. I'll tell them that humans don't want to dominate anyone. They just want to make sure no one else does either. Captain Sunmi smiled. That's a pretty good summary of human foreign policy. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Veltar reflected on the strange twist of fate that had brought humans into galactic affairs. A simple distress call had started it all. Now the entire galaxy was changing because one species had decided that bullies should not be allowed to win. The Nexari horde was learning that some fights were too dangerous to start, and the galaxy was learning what it meant to have real protectors, watching over them. But the biggest changes were still to come. Admiral Taehyun stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Vigilance and looked out at the largest fleet in galactic history. 60 ships floated in formation around him, 30 human vessels and 30 from allied species who had finally found the courage to fight back. Today they would end the Nexari horde forever. Admiral, reported Captain Sunmi from the New Dawn, all ships are ready for the assault on Korthak Prime. Korthak Prime was the heart of Nexari space, a massive fortress world where the horde's leaders lived and planned their raids. It was defended by over 200 warships, orbital defense platforms, and millions of ground troops. But Admiral Taehyun had learned something important over the past year of fighting. Numbers didn't matter as much as people thought. Fleet Captain Jung-hun, he said into his communicator. Begin the operation. What happened next became known throughout the galaxy as the Battle of Korthak Prime. It was the largest military operation in recorded history, and it lasted exactly 14 hours from start to finish. The human plan was simple but devastating. Instead of attacking the heavily defended main world directly, they hit every other target in the system first. Supply bases, communication arrays, fuel depots, repair facilities, everything the Nexari needed to coordinate their defense. Lieutenant Hana, now promoted to commander, led a squadron of fast ships that jumped in and out of the system, striking targets and disappearing before the Nexari could respond. Each attack was perfectly timed and precisely targeted. "Target destroyed," she reported after hitting another ammunition depot. "The Nexari can't supply their orbital platforms anymore." "Excellent work, Commander," Admiral Taehyun replied. "Continue with Phase 2. Phase 2 was where human military thinking really showed its advantages. While the Nexari scrambled to defend their scattered facilities, the main human fleet attacked from an unexpected direction, using the system's asteroid belt for cover. Captain Ji-won, now commanding the heavy battleship Thunder of Earth, led the assault on the orbital defenses. All ships target the command platforms first, cut off their communications. The battle was fierce, but one-sided. Human weapons designed by a species that had been perfecting warfare for thousands of years cut through Nexari defenses like they were made of paper. Railguns fired in perfect coordination, each shot calculated by computers that could predict exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage. But the real victory wasn't in space. It was on the ground. General Minji commanded the liberation of Korthak, Prime itself. Her troops were a mix of human marines and soldiers from allied species who had learned human tactics. They didn't just fight to win. They fought to free the billions of slaves being held on the planet below. "General," reported Colonel Kyungmin over the radio, "we've secured the main slave compounds. The prisoners are free." "How many?" "General," Minji asked. "Over 50 million beings from dozens of species, ma'am. Some of them have been slaves for generations." General Minji felt a familiar anger rise in her chest. This was why humans fought, not for territory or resources, but for people who couldn't fight for themselves. "Get them to the evacuation ships," she ordered. "And Colonel, make sure the Nexari commanders know that slavery is now a capital offense in this galaxy." The ground campaign showed something that shocked even allied observers. Human soldiers didn't just fight well, they fought smart. They used tactics that had been developed over centuries of human warfare, adapted for alien environments and enemies. More importantly, they fought with a discipline that other species couldn't match. Nexari warriors were bred for individual combat, but humans had learned to fight as a team. Every human soldier knew exactly what every other human soldier was doing, even in the chaos of battle. Captain Veltar watched the operation from the bridge of the New Dawn, serving as liaison between human command and the allied governments. He had seen many human battles over the past year, but this one was different. This wasn't just a battle, it was a statement. "Captain Sunmi," he said, "your people are not just defeating the Nexari, you're dismantling their entire civilization." "That's the idea," Captain Sunmi replied. "We don't want to rule their space. We want to make sure they can never hurt anyone again." "And after this, what happens to the Nexari people who surrender?" "They get the same choice everyone else gets. They can join the galactic community as peaceful citizens, or they can find somewhere far away to live quietly. But the days of raiding and slavery are over." The battle ended when Nexari High Command surrendered unconditionally. Overlord Thekvar himself was captured by human marines who had fought their way through layers of defenses that should have been impossible to breach. As he was led away in restraints, Thekvar spoke to General Minji. "Your species, you are not like other civilizations. You fight without mercy." "No," General Minji corrected him. "We fight without hesitation. There's a difference. We show mercy to people who deserve it. And we? You enslaved billions of innocent beings. You showed them no mercy. Why should we show you any?" The liberation of Korthak Prime had consequences that spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communications. On worlds that had lived under Nexari oppression for decades, slave populations rose up against their captors. Local defense, forces that had been too afraid to fight suddenly found the courage to resist. Within days, the Nexari Empire began collapsing from within. But the most important change wasn't military or political. It was psychological. For the first time in galactic history, peaceful species realized they didn't have to be victims. The humans had shown them that bullies could be defeated, that oppressors could be overthrown, and that freedom was worth fighting. For 6 months after the Battle of Korthak Prime, Captain Veltar stood with Captain Jiwan on the observation deck of the Iron Will. They were watching the construction of a new space station at the edge of human space, the first joint human-alien facility designed to coordinate galactic defense. "Your species has changed everything," Veltar observed. "The galaxy will never be the same." "Maybe," Jiwan replied, "but that wasn't our goal. We just answered a distress call." "And now?" "Now we make sure no one has to send a distress call they don't think anyone will answer." Around them, ships from dozens of species came and went, carrying supplies, personnel, and messages between worlds that had never communicated before. Trade routes that had been closed for decades were reopening. Scientific exchanges were beginning between species that had been isolated by fear. The human doctrine, as historians would later call it, was simple. We are the sword and shield of civilization. We ask nothing more than the chance to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. Earth had become the unofficial protector of the galaxy, not through conquest, but through choice. Human ships patrolled trade routes, human marines trained local defense forces, and human engineers helped rebuild worlds that had been devastated by raiders. But perhaps most importantly, humans had taught other species that they could defend themselves. The fear that had paralyzed galactic civilization for so long was being replaced by confidence and cooperation. President Minseo, now in her second term, addressed the United Earth Council on the first anniversary of First Contact. "We set out to help one ship in distress. We ended up liberating an entire galaxy. But our work isn't finished. As long as there are people who need protection, Earth will provide it." Defense Minister Chan Wu added, "The Nexari horde is gone, but there are other threats out there, other species that think might makes right. They need to understand that the galaxy has changed. We won't allow oppression to flourish again." 5 years later, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The old patterns of fear and submission had been replaced by cooperation and mutual defense. New alliances formed between species that had never trusted each other before. Scientific advancement accelerated as knowledge was shared freely. And in the deep black between the stars, human ships continued their patrols, carrying crews of multiple species united by a single principle. That civilization, once achieved, must be defended. Captain Veltar, now an admiral in the combined Allied Defense Force, often thought about the message that had started it all. A simple distress call from a damaged research ship had brought humans into galactic affairs and changed the course of history. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders didn't just answer calls for help with fire and steel. They answered them with hope, and that made all the difference.